Alright guys, so there's another very interesting heavyweight fight coming up next month, and it's between undefeated 22-0 with 13 knockouts Robert Helenius, former two-time European champion, and he's facing Johann Duhaupas, 33-0 with 20 knockouts. This fight's gone under the radar. I haven't seen anybody else on YouTube talking about this fight at all. I think I seen a promotional video and that was it. But I think this is a pretty intriguing fight. I honestly do. Now, let's talk about Robert Helenius for a second. I'll break him down first. Now, back in 2010 and 2011, back then, Robert Helenius was one of the fastest rising heavyweight prospects. I remember watching him fight Sam Peter and Lamont Brewster and Sergei Lakovic. Those guys, those were three former world champions that Helenius fought in his first 15 fights, I think. I mean, he fought those guys very early on in his career, and I was very impressed with the way that he was able to destroy those guys. Although the Sam Peter fight wasn't that impressive. I think the first 5 or 6 rounds of that fight he looked pretty sluggish, but the way that he broke Sam Peter down and the way that he knocked him out was impressive. I was impressed by the knockout. Helenius clearly showed very good power and the ability to carry his power late into fights, which is very good for a heavyweight. And I was impressed. However, at the end of 2011, I believe it was either November or December. I think it was the start of December. I sat down to watch him fight Derek Chisora, and going into that fight, I picked him to beat Chisora. I believed he was going to destroy Chisora in 6 rounds. I thought it was going to be an easy fight. However, something happened. Robert Helenius suffered a pretty bad injury, and you could tell he was injured. This was no bullshit. He was injured. He suffered a shoulder injury, I think it was 6 weeks before the fight or something. And when he went into the fight, it only exacerbated it. It made it worse. And he ended up having a very tough night. And due to his injury, he almost had to retire from the sport. And it killed all the momentum he had. I think he took a year off boxing, wasn't able to spar or train or anything for almost the entire year. He came back and he fought Sherman Williams, who's a pretty tough Caribbean journeyman. He's a short guy for a heavyweight. He's like 5'10", but he's very tough, very built, very good chin, very difficult to stop. And he gave Helenius a tough fight too. Helenius was hurt a couple of times in that fight, but he pulled through and he won the fight on points. And he just looked awful. Helenius you could tell he hadn't trained in a while. You could tell he was out of shape, uncoordinated, slow, robotic. And he just looked awful in the fight. He then fought in March 2013 on the undercard of the Abraham Stieglitz rematch. He then fought Michael Sprott. I watched that fight live too, and Michael Sprott, he's a fairly decent journeyman here in the UK, but he's years past his prime. I think he's 40 years old. He's a long way past his prime. He's got losses in the multiple figures, and he's also been stopped a lot of times in his career. I think he's been stopped about 10 times or something in his career. So, you would expect Robert Helenius to get the stoppage in that fight. However, he didn't get the stoppage. He dominated the fight and won on points, but he didn't get the stoppage. And then something else happened in that fight which killed any momentum that he was gaining. He broke his hand. Robert Helenius broke his left hand in the fight. And I actually saw a photo of the left hand, and it actually looked really bad. It did. He broke his left hand. Really sucks for him. He was out of boxing for another 2 years. He had some promotional troubles. I believe he took the Sauerlands to court. They were doing him out of money, something like that. I don't really know that situation. A lot of the articles are in Finnish and German. I don't read Finnish or German, so I haven't really been able to get a clear grasp of what was going on there. If anybody knows, let me know in the comment. But yeah, all I know is that there was several promotional issues which were keeping him from fighting, and he had that broken hand which also was keeping him from fighting and training. And he also split from his long-term trainer Uli Wegner. Now Uli Wegner is a very experienced trainer. He's trained Sven Otke, Marcus Bayer, Arthur Abraham, so many guys. Kubrat Pulev too. He's now with Kubrat Pulev. So he's a very experienced trainer, been around for a long time. But to be perfectly honest, I never thought he suited Helenius. thing with Uli Wegner is he's a very basic trainer. He teaches these guys to just have tight guard, stiff jab, and that's all he teaches these guys. All the guys that fight with Uli Wegner, apart from Sven Ottke. Sven Ottke was a very slick mover, a really good counter puncher. But everybody else that I've seen with Uli Wegner, Arthur Abraham, Marco Huck, all these guys, they all fight exactly the same. And I never thought that style really appealed to Robert Helenius. It never really suited him. So I think it's a good thing that he left Uli Wegner. He's now, I think he's trained by his father at the moment. I'm not 100% on that. I read a report somewhere that his father was training him. And he made a comeback last year. He fought two journeymen, knocked them out in 3 rounds, easy. The guys were just too small. They were blown up middleweights, basically. Kind of guys you fight in your first 10 fights. And he blew those guys away. He then was set to fight Erkan Tepe, which was one of my most anticipated fights of the year. I could not wait to see that fight. I really wanted to see him fight Erkan Tepe. I thought that was a great matchup. Unfortunately, however, the fight didn't happen. Erkan Tepe failed a drug test following his knockout victory over David Price, and the fight got cancelled. Do you know what? I wish they just didn't drug test Tepe. I honestly do, because I wanted to see the fight. I'm pissed off. I wanted to see him and Helenius go at it. I think that would have been an excellent heavyweight fight. But oh well, it didn't happen. And Helenius then got a replacement opponent, a guy called Franz Rill. Now Franz Rill is not a bad fighter. However, he was very inexperienced. He was only 11-0, and he was far too small. He was something like 6 foot, and Helenius had like a 7-inch height advantage and a big long reach. And Franz Rill, to everybody's surprise, including my own, he actually gave Helenius a very difficult fight. Now, he got knocked down in, I think it was the 4th round. He got knocked down, and he was down in the 1st round too, but I thought that was a slip when I saw it. But he gave Helenius a very difficult fight. He actually landed quite a lot more punches than Helenius did. Helenius' work was obviously a lot more effective. He hits a lot harder than Rill. But Rill, he did give Helenius tons of problems. I mean, moving around, using feints, hitting him in the body, using a jab. He threw Helenius completely off his game. So I thought that it was commendable that he was able to do that, and especially taking the fight on short notice. And to be honest, it really does not bode well for Robert Helenius, knowing that he had problems with a guy that only had 11 fights. So I really don't know what to make of Helenius at the moment. I don't think he'll ever get that momentum that he had back in 2011. I just think that the injuries and the promotional issues, they've really gotten in his way, and they've really made him decline as a fighter. Now let's talk about Johann Duhaupas. Now, for those of you who don't know who Johann Duhaupas is, he's the guy that fought Deontay Wilder a couple of fights ago last year. He gave Wilder a fairly difficult fight. He caused a lot of damage to Wilder's eye. He was able to land jabs on Wilder. He was crowding Wilder's space, getting on the inside and trying his best. And he actually looked okay. However, Wilder's superior athleticism and punch output just got the better of him, and Wilder ended up stopping him in the 11th round. It was a fairly decent fight up until that point. Other than that, he's lost to Erkan Tepe on points. Quite commendable that he went the distance, because Erkan Tepe is a very powerful puncher, one of the biggest punchers in boxing right now. And he also, I think he was beaten by Francesco Pianetta. You'll remember him from getting knocked out cold in 1 round by Ruslan Shagayev. And also he got destroyed by Vladimir Klitschko a few years ago too. So Johann Duhaupas, he's not that good a fighter, but he's fairly tough. He's a tough, strong, durable fighter. I mean, any fighter that can take as much punishment as he did off of Deontay Wilder is very tough, because we all know that Deontay Wilder can punch. And as I mentioned previously, we all know that Erkan Tepe can punch too. So, Johann Duhaupas, he's tough. If nothing else, he's tough. He stands at about 6'5". He's strong. He's got a long reach. He's got a very good jab. Against Wilder, his jab was pretty effective at times. I think that in a fight against Helenius, I think that this is intriguing. I honestly do. A lot of people, I said nobody's really talking about this fight. There's not a lot of hype about this fight at all. But I think that Franz Rill, although I'm not expecting him to beat Helenius, I think that he has certainly the toughness and the determination and the physical tools to make it a very awkward, very hard, very difficult scrap. If he can get his jab going, if he can work Helenius's body, because one thing about Robert Helenius is he's extremely easy to hit in the body. If you look at the way he fights, he leaves his body wide open for hooks. I mean, it is just wide open all night. Look at the Chisora fight, look at the Sam Peter fight, look at the Franz Rill fight, okay? Look at any fight of Helenius, even the Lakovic fight, he took a lot to the body, you know? Robert Helenius is so easy to hit in the body. And that gives Johann Duhaupas a chance. If he can get to the body, he can really cause Helenius a lot of distress in this fight. He can make it a very difficult workout. And that's what intrigues me about this fight. I think, although I do think Helenius is going to win, I'm going with Helenius on points. I don't think he's going to stop Johann Duhaupas, because I don't think Helenius, although he's got power, I think that those injuries, have taken his power away a little bit, and I don't think he has the kind of power that Deontay Wilder or Contepa has. So I'm not expecting him to knock Johann Duhaupas out. I'm expecting it to be a decision. The fight is in Finland, so if it's close, you got to imagine that Helenius is probably going to be getting the decision if it's close. I'm not going to say there's going to be a robbery, but if it's close, I see him getting it. So yeah, I'm probably going to go with Helenius on points. But I think it's intriguing. I think Duhaupas definitely has the ability to make this a very entertaining fight. So make sure you check out this fight, guys. It's going to be interesting. These guys definitely do clash well in terms of styles. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. If Helenius wins this fight, would you like to see him fight the winner of Wilder versus Povetkin? Because chances are Helenius will actually become mandatory, because this fight is for the WBC silver title. So if Helenius wins this and then wins another fight, he may become mandatory. So we may see him fight Wilder. I believe Wilder's going to beat Povetkin, so we'll wait and see what happens there. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I'm out.